Hello guys, welcome to the 8th video of Module 2, and here we are going to talk about that how you can take a particular data type and convert it to some other data type. For example, if I'm having a float, how can I convert that into string? So all these kind of data type conversions you are going to understand in this particular video. So let's get into it. So now let's go ahead and understand that how we can take this particular data type that is in the format of string, the 7, how you can convert that into a numeric data type that is either integer or a float, or maybe let's say both of them. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a heading which says that data type conversion. You're going to learn about how you can convert any data type into some other data type if it's possible to convert, or else you will be getting an error. So the commands that you need to know, commands to convert. If you want to convert any kind of thing into a string, any kind of data, it could be an integer, it could be a float, it could be any kind of data type. Okay, we have covered only 3 of them, but let's say it could be any kind of data type. If you want to convert that into a string, the command in Python is the string. Any kind of input that you give to the string, that input, if it's possible to convert that into a string, it's going to convert it into the string. Just like that, in order to convert any kind of input into integers, you are having this command of int, integers. So any kind of input that you pass to this int within this kind of parenthesis, it's going to convert that input in the format of integers if it's possible to convert that input in that integer. For example, let's say if I'm having 3.5, if I try to convert that into an integer, it's not going to convert that 3.5 into an integer because 3.5 is in the format of float. However, there is some interesting thing that's going to happen if I'm going to run this kind of code. You will be understanding it in a while. Now, just like that, if you want to convert any kind of input into the float format, you call the float that is available in Python itself, and then you give some kind of input. That's how it works. Okay. And now I'm going to give one more comment after giving one empty line, that convert a string data into integer and float. So we know that this 7 is currently existing in the type of string. I can again cross check it by simply typing this type and user fav number. And this time I'm not writing any kind of print in top of that, because in Google Colab, what happens is if I'm going to run this, the last line doesn't require print statement to print the output. Okay, but if I'm giving, let's say I'm just copying this thing and printing it again over here, it should have been printing twice for me, right? If I run this code, but it's going to print only once. Why? Because it's going to give me the print of the last statement automatically. I don't need to give print command. If I want to print both of them, I need to give print for both these lines. Okay, that's something that we need to know. Okay, but anyways, coming back to our discussion, that is, we already know that now this user fav number is in the format of string, right? So now I'm doing is converting a string to integer. How? I'm passing this int and then passing in this user fav number, and simply running this code by pressing Ctrl Enter. And I'm also trying to print the type of the string to int and see if that thing has converted. And at the same time, I'm also going to print the string to int variable that we have created. As you can see, now the output is again 7. See how the 7 are looking just the same. It's the change in this data type. Now from the string, we have converted it officially into an integer. Now this string to integer variable is having the value of integer 7, right? How did we do it? By just using this kind of inbuilt command in Python of integer. I gave an input to it because we know that the 7 can be written in the format of integers. We are having this kind of an data. Now what if I, let's say for example, give a string like this, and ask to convert this string into an integer? It's not a number. How will this be converted into an integer? It's not possible. We're getting this kind of a value error that, hey, I'm not able to convert this string into an integer. Invalid literal for this integer. It's not possible to convert this into an integer. So make sure that you are giving these inputs that are able to be converted into an integer. Now at the same time, now what happens if I'm giving 3.5? Now this time you might expect that it can give you an error because now it's in the format of decimals, and even 3.5 in itself is not an integer, right? So what's going to happen over here? It's not going to give you an error. Instead, it's going to round it down to the nearest integer. So if I'm having 3.5, it's converting to 3. If I'm having 3.9, it's still going to convert it to 3. So yeah, that's how this kind of integer works. So make sure if you want to have 3.9, let's say if this was in the format of string. And now if I run this time it's giving me an error because string cannot directly be converted into an integer that is having a float data within itself. So I need to convert that 3.9 first of all into float. So that this 3.9 that is existing in a string is first of all converted into a float, and now that float will be converted into an integer, and now it should work perfectly. See how that 3.9 string got converted into a float that is 3.9, and now that 3.9 if I'm giving as an integer of this 3.9, it's converting into 3, right? So that's how it's basically working. In 3.9 the integer part is 3. That's what we essentially are getting, right? So yeah, coming back to going breaking this whole thing into a step-by-step format. This was user fav number, okay, and let's say I'm also having the string to integer, or let's say string to integer. Now integer is already done, right? We are about to change it to float. So now we are having float of user fav number. Remember, this user fav number is already defined over here. We haven't done any kind of changes to it. So it's still in the format of and string. Okay. It's just that this variable is now given this value that is integer of that string data. Okay. So again, if I'm first of all printing what is the type of user fav number, it won't change. It will just be the same because I haven't done any kind of changes to that variable, right? That variable is still the same. Okay, it's giving me some kind of an error. It's giving me a name error that S type is not defined. Oh yeah, because I've done a type over here. See, now it's still, you can see it's this is the last print statement. It's saying that it's still a string, right? Now let's say I'm trying to convert that string into a float. How we can do it, right? I'm going to print this thing string to float and also print the type of it. So that's how it's working. It's converting that 7 into 7.0, and now that decimal indication is saying that it's basically float type. Again, I've done some kind of a type over here. I should have not written float. I should have written string to float, right? String to float, like this, because float is a function, right? It's not some kind of a variable. So yeah, as you can see, now it's giving you the output of float. The type of the string to float variable that we have created is a float. Now let's say if I want to get a user input of two different integers and add them together, how can I do it? So what I'll do is I'll take number 1 as an input. I'll ask them to input their number. Give any integer number. Okay, and then after that I'm going to give another variable that is input, give one more integer. All right, and then if I'm going to add these numbers together and print it n1 plus n2, or else let's say we are having a very fancy way to give this kind of a statement by using f string. I'm going to say that the sum of n1 variable and n2 variable is the summation of them, that is n1 plus n2. Now remember, I am not converting this into integers, right? Because we know that by default this input is going to expect the numbers in the format of what? Strings. So let's see if I'm running this as of now and giving, let's say 7, and another integer is, let's say my another favorite number is 9. So 7 plus 9 should be what? 13, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, my bad. Again, my very basic mathematics is also very wrong. But anyway, 9 plus 7, whatever is the value, okay, 9 plus 7, you can do it in Calci. It won't be 79, right? So now what's going to happen? The reason we are getting this 79 is because that this n1 and n2 is a string, and we are concatenating them, this kind of string, with the help of this plus variable, I mean plus operator. And that's the reason why this 7 and 9 are getting concatenated. We are joining the strings together with the help of that plus, like how we did over here while before this f statement, I had f string. I had given you a way through which you can do it by simply converting this into this plus, and there is also no quotation marks. And if I print this, it was giving this, right? How they were joining this two kind of strings, and then we had given this kind of space and everything. So yeah, that's exactly the same thing that I'm showing you over here. Okay, this is string 2, just converting it back to what it was. And yeah, that's typically what we are going to do over here, that because it's in the format of string, it's concatenating them. Now if I want to convert this into an integer, I need to pass this int on top of this. Why? Because I'm converting the string into an integer, and I know user is going to give me an input of an integer. It's going to convert it automatically into the format of integers. And let's say my mathematics is really very weak. I'm giving the value of 7 and 9, and this value of 16 is now accurate, right? So yeah, that's how it's going to work. How you can take input from the user if it's a numeric data, and if you are sure it's going to be an integer, no other data, you directly give this input of int on top of this input that you are getting from the user. It will automatically convert it into the integers, and then you can do any kind of sorts of things you want. So yeah, that was about how you can do the data type conversions, convert one kind of data into some different type. Alright guys, that's the end of this video over here. And I hope that by now you have got this idea of how you can change a particular data type in Python to some different data type. Right now we are just talking with respect to some basic data types that are string, integer and float. So let's say if anytime you are getting into this kind of a problem, that right now we are having the data with respect to string format. Now if you have to convert it into integer format, now you should be able to do it, right? So yes, with this being said, in the next video we are going to start actually some of the very good concepts in Python that you must know. Without this, you cannot really create some amazing level of projects. So stay tuned for that. In the next video, I'm going to talk about control flow in Python.